Good afternoon to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to today's tropical weather outlook for Sunday, May 31st, 2026. It is the last day of May and the last day before hurricane season begins in the Atlantic basin, but it's obviously already started in the Eastern Pacific. We now have multiple tropical disturbances to watch, both of which, in my opinion, have decent chances of developing and becoming named storms in the Eastern Pacific Basin, and one of them especially the area closer to Mexico, in my opinion, might be a threat that we might need to watch instead of it being just an out-to-sea storm that we kind of wave at and track it as it impacts nobody, because this will be close to Mexico and a little bit too close to comfort, as some would say. But we're going to go over that in just a little bit. First of all, though, I want to show you the tropical weather outlook bulletin, or the tropical weather bulletin for the National Hurricane Center, as we typically do at the start of every update. I mean, this is where it all begins, the National Hurricane Center, and you can see both of our disturbances in the Eastern Pacific right now. The first one we've been watching since mid earlier this week, or I should say probably since around midweek. We've been watching this disturbance, and it is still at an 80% chance of development in the next 7 days. No chance of development yet in the next 48 hours. And I guess that's because the National Hurricane Center has not yet put an X on where the trackable low pressure for this area of interest will be, but that's probably going to happen very, very soon. And I'll show you the surface analysis in a little bit, but this is going to very likely develop. The National Hurricane Center says environmental conditions appear conducive for additional development thereafter, and a tropical depression is likely to form during the middle part of the week while moving westward or west northwestward at 10 to 15 miles per hour across the western portion of the East Pacific. So out to sea, but a high chance of development nonetheless. But the other area here, at a low chance of development right now, but it is noticeably much more closer to the Mexican coastline than this disturbance right here. And this is going to be likely a product of the Central American gyre pattern that I've been talking about for the last several weeks as the MJO has been moving through. And, you know, we were going to see development in the Atlantic potentially because of this as well, but it really looks like that the Central American gyre pattern will be focusing in the Eastern Pacific, and that will probably lead to development late next week. And the conditions for this storm look favorable as well, but I'll talk about especially this area in just a little bit. We'll talk about both areas and take a look at the models for how both disturbances are looking at a little bit later on. But first, here's a satellite shot of the Atlantic and the Pacific right now. Nothing much happening in the Eastern Atlantic, so that's kind of cut off right now, but again, there's nothing much to see. But you can see the Caribbean also nice and quiet. We have brisk trades moving through. You can kind of see the flow of the lower level wind speeds here kind of moving strongly east to west, and then kind of turning a little bit northwestward as we get to the northern Caribbean. And then there are a little bit of showers and thunderstorms in the Gulf right now, as well as off the southeast coast too. And then we have a nice front, which is making its way eastward across the western Atlantic with a low pressure here over the northwestern Atlantic. And this actually brought some pretty chilly temperatures, especially to Long Island this morning. Eastern Long Island saw temperatures as low as 31 degrees Fahrenheit for May 31st. So that is quite incredible, and that's kind of because of the position of the jet stream now due to this front here. But nothing tropical in the Atlantic. In the Eastern Pacific, we have not much happening in the eastern part of the basin, but you do see our building mass of showers and thunderstorms here, and this is going to be the area that we need to watch. If you take a look at the 850 millibar vorticity map, you could see where we have quite a bit of vorticity right now, especially in the Eastern Pacific, embedded here again within this ITCZ in the Pacific. And we have pockets here of vorticity that is trying to consolidate, and we're going to have to watch and see which one of these pockets consolidate and break off and eventually develop. like the National Hurricane Center is expecting to do so right now. But meanwhile, across the Atlantic, also a lot of vorticity here in the southern Atlantic. This is because of the intertropical convergence zone in the tropical Atlantic. But as you can see, it's all strung out, nothing consolidating and developing in the Atlantic right now. But here's the surface analysis. You can see how all of it is playing out right now. A few tropical waves in the Atlantic, tropical wave here in the Eastern Pacific. I don't think this is the area that we need to watch, though. But you can see where the intertropical convergence zone is in the Pacific. It's kind of noted by this line here. And along the intertropical convergence zone, you can see that we have some low pressures here. Looks like the tropical analysis from the National Hurricane Center is already hinting at one low pressure here that is developing right around 120 to 125 west. And that does pretty decently coincide with where our area of interest is here. So maybe we are already starting to see the beginnings of the low pressure that'll eventually lead to development here in the Pacific. And we're probably going to see that especially evolve here over the next few days. So let's take a look at the models and see what they show for today for both areas. And you can see, first off, definitely a lot of ensembles hinting at activity here in the ITCZ associated with our first AOI. I'd say most of the ensemble members of the European now show something, and interestingly enough, you have one or two that actually show a pretty decently strong storm out of this. It's likely not going to be a strong storm. I probably would say that we're going to deal with a moderate to high-end tropical storm out of whatever happens here in the western part of the Eastern Pacific with this first area of interest. But you can see closer to Mexico with the second area of interest here, lots of ensembles already beginning to show activity. And already, even though this goes out to 2 weeks, you can start to see a few ensembles showing some pretty decently strong activity here. And this is, in my opinion, probably what we're going to have to watch very closely, as you could especially see a lot of the ensembles here with our second AOI. And yes, the signal that you see here closer to Mexico, that is this AOI here. That is what the models are showing for this area. And it tracks very close to Mexico. And there are very warm sea surface temperatures, as I've been talking about for the last several days. And clearly, already, as we go out to 2 weeks here, the ensembles are already showing quite a bit of decent activity here and strong activity closer to Mexico. But it's not just the European ensembles. Here are the Google AI ensembles as well. And they show basically the same thing. And they also have, our area of interest here in the Eastern Pacific. But also, interestingly enough, some ensembles do try to make their way northward into the Gulf. And looks like there are a few that try to do so as well on the European ensemble. So, as I've been saying, the Gulf of America, not completely off the cards yet, especially since hurricane season begins tomorrow in the Atlantic. So, lots of areas to watch here in the tropics, but especially here in the Eastern Pacific, two main areas to watch over the next 1 to 2 weeks. And you can see that play out here on the operational GFS. First of all, we have our first area of disturbance here. Starts to get going in the modeling, and probably really, I'd say, by about hour 72 here. So this is roughly Wednesday. I'd say that's when we are going to probably see a tropical depression form out of this area of interest. And then it strengthens somewhat here, actually becomes a pretty decent looking storm. Let's really quickly see what the pressure is on that. 995 millibars. Gets down to 990 millibars. That's actually not a bad intensity being forecasted here. Maybe this might actually get to strong tropical storm, maybe minimal hurricane status, possible. But then by the time we get to the end of the week here, you could see, especially as we get towards 162, 174 hours out, and we kind of skip a few frames here because the 12Z GFS is not fully loaded yet. I'm literally showing to you as the model is loading on tropical tidbits right now. But at least we have most of the run enough so that you could see that something does develop and becomes a pretty decent storm, especially by the end of next week. And then by the time we get to the 7-day time frame, we can already start seeing our second area develop here. And that actually seems like it gets going pretty quickly as well. And this will happen much closer to Central America and Mexico. And the reason why I'm especially interested in this area is because when you look at the upper level winds, the 200 millibar winds, first of all, let's take a look at the 200 millibar winds here for our area, our first area of interest, and you can see pretty decent. We have some upper level outflow here, winds moving away from the storm, but especially when you look closer to Central America and Mexico here, by the time we get to the 7-day time frame, and this is the European ensembles for the 200 millibar wind as of the 0Z run, and you could see quite a favorable environment here. First of all, no strong upper level winds at all in the Eastern Pacific, and also as well, that classic signature of an upper level anticyclone with winds moving in a clockwise direction, kind of ventilating outward and away from, whatever low pressure that might be here, providing ventilation and favorable atmospheric conditions for whatever will try to develop here closer to Mexico and Central America. And this is, again, 7 days out, roughly right around the time we start seeing our area of interest here near Mexico get going. And then you can see it develops. And yeah, I think this will be an area that we will need to watch very closely, especially for interests close to Mexico, since this will be developing much closer to the coastline here. Too far out to tell what exactly is going to happen, whether or not this will actually go into Mexico or this will stay just off the coast but still bring some impacts. We'll have to see, but it is getting time to hurricane. I mean, we already are in hurricane season in the Eastern Pacific, but it really looks like things are going to heat up. As I mentioned before, sea surface temperatures are also very warm in this area. So yeah, I'd say especially next week, those along the Mexican coastline should really start watching the tropics very closely here. And if you are not prepared yet, start preparing now for whatever might happen. But if you are in any coastline or coastal region anywhere here in either the Pacific or the Atlantic, I say that you should already be prepared no matter what, even if you aren't expecting anything in the next 1 to 2 weeks. So with that being said, since we're talking about the Atlantic, let's see what happens here in the Atlantic over the next 7 days. Not much. We do have some sort of low pressure here that tries to get going in the Gulf. And the GFS, I mean, a few days ago, if you remember, the European and the GFS were trying to show something develop here in the Gulf. And this does appear to come from moisture from Central America, and it does lift northward, but clearly it kind of just fizzles out. It doesn't really do much, and probably one of the biggest reasons why. Let's really quickly show you the shear here. Yeah, as you can see, a lot of very, very strong shear in the Gulf of Mexico. So obviously not very favorable for tropical development. So in terms of any immediate tropical development over the next 7 days in the Atlantic, nothing is popping up. And hopefully it stays that way for the foreseeable future. But hurricane season is beginning tomorrow. So I doubt it will stay that way. And probably something will happen at some point. And I still say, in my opinion, that June, early to mid-June, we will still need to watch for something to eventually, try to develop in the Gulf. I mean, it is a favored area this time of year after all. So, of course, we'll see if something does end up happening. But most of our attention will be in the Eastern Pacific, at least for the next few weeks. And that's because everything is heating up, and we will continue to monitor both areas of interest here, especially the one closer to Mexico. And if you want updates on both of these areas, especially if you are along the Mexican coastline and you're interested in what might be happening here in the next week or so with our second area of interest here, please, I would really appreciate if you subscribe to my channel. We're going to be doing daily updates. So daily updates on model runs, what the National Hurricane Center is saying, and if you're interested in all of that, again, I would really appreciate if you subscribe to the channel and like this video as well and share it with others and see if they might want to subscribe as well. The more the merrier, the more we can grow, and the more I can do for you. But with that being said, that's going to do it for today's update. Not really much else happening beyond that. We have something happening in the Western Pacific, Typhoon, I believe, Jagmai or something like that. That's not really a super big threat right now. Might bring some impacts to Japan, but not really in our area of interest. So not really going to focus on that. But with that being said, enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I'll talk to you guys again tomorrow.